What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Off the Wall. My name is Mike. Psych, not really. My name is Bogz. I'm being the missing third host with my girl Sol today. How are you today, Sol?
Doing good. I was like, did you change your name?
Now, this is the Obi-Wan Kenobi episode 4 review, spoiler review. I'm spoiling this from the start, so get ready. We're gonna keep it short, sharp, and simple. Not too much went on this episode. Not gonna lie, and yeah, for me, it was bland, boring, no character development. A couple of cool moments, yeah, sure, but overall, almost a waste of an episode. There's only 2 left after this. I was really, really disappointed by the end of this. I'm frustrated, actually. It wasn't massively horrible. Like, it wasn't, there wasn't anything in it to get that offended or upset about, really. I mean, although we'll come to some things I didn't like, but yeah, overall, Soul, what are your thoughts on it? Obviously, this was like an echo of A New Hope. I did see where we see Obi-Wan visits an Imperial facility and has to, sneak, through the facility. And obviously, he's accompanied by someone in disguise, which we'll come to in a second. And
To go rescue Leia.
to rescue Leia. Yeah. So, echoes of that. I got all that. But overall, yeah, very, very dull and boring episode for me. How about you?
Yeah, this episode was just okay. There was like some really cool moments of like, especially like Tala. I really enjoy her character and what she's doing, and she's acting her butt off. But for the most part, yeah, I was just like, okay, this is okay. This feels like, even though this is moving the story a little forward, like there's moments like rescuing Leia, and then what's going to happen next in the next 2 episodes. But this felt like filler. It felt like a filler episode, even though there's story beats that move the story along. And I was like, okay, this is just an okay episode.
Yeah. So, I mean, almost kind of every scene or every other scene, you get flashes of things, what the show could be or what it should be, and it just falls short every single time. And from what I've hoped and anticipated from the story of arguably my 2 favorite characters in Star Wars to what we're getting is so below par. The writing is almost dreadful, I feel, and they're using I feel like Obi-Wan and Anakin as like a marketing tool to push through these other characters. That is just mega frustrating. And the fact that Obi-Wan continues to be this kind of Luke in The Last Jedi, it's like a retelling of that almost. Like, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm not used to using my powers. We see that at the start of the episode, and by the end of the episode, we see him using the Force and his lightsaber and stuff, but we don't really we don't see any kind of reason why now he used it, and why at the start of he's struggling to kind of move a little metal object. And that's just one of the many issues I have with this episode. So we see kind of Tala and Obi-Wan grab Leia and run away. And that's basically the plot of the episode. So again, there's no real plot of this series. Like, apart from obviously, it's that we've been sold on the Obi-Wan and Vader rematch. What is this series about? What is the story of this series? We still don't know. We're 4 episodes in. This episode was incredibly short, 32 minutes, including the beginning kind of highlights of the previous episodes. So I counted it was about 30 minutes this episode was. And as I said, they entered the Inquisitor Fortress castle. They got Leia and they got out, and that was it. That's the whole episode. And it did feel very fillery. So I'm going to say a few things about Tala, but I think that you really liked her as a character. Is that right?
Yeah, I like her as a character.
So my issues is that she was quite frustrating for me in this episode, where she can beat up a lot of people, outwit them, even from the start when she kind of lands initially, and that Imperial trooper establishes that you're not supposed to be here, and how she just so easily gets him to change his mind and back down. The part where she says, "Okay, sir, you have to, my rank, I outrank you. Call me that." That's fine. I like that part. Yeah. And then from there, she kind of just almost intimidates him into letting him in. And then from there, obviously, another, Imperial person identifies as she's not supposed to be there. She then kills him. And then there's just a number of other stormtroopers that she beats up. And then she's kind of constantly narrating or kind of guiding Obi-Wan as if like she's as if he's not intelligent enough to do so, as if he can't, like she's the smarter of the pair. And then yeah, and no one else hearing them on, there's other people
Yeah.
working right next to her on the
Right.
speaker thing. I'm like, what could she, they, they know, they can hear, right? So, and obviously when she went to kill the guy, Obi-Wan's calling out, and other people can hear them on this. I just found it so annoying. There's loads of little things. I don't have an issue with a character per se, but just that this is the story development that we've got for her. This is who we're negating Anakin and Obi-Wan's story for. This character is like, and the way that she took out the stormtroopers, that the choreography of the action, I just found really puzzling.
Mm.
But yeah, I understand who she is in the story and what they're trying to do, but it just did not work for me. But yeah, you said that you really like her. Any thoughts on her?
Yeah, the moment of like her speaking in the thing, and then you see like the person right next to her, I was just like, okay, this, you got to suspend your disbelief a little bit, because they 100% can hear everything that's going on. And with, I can kind of realize why the first person that she takes out, that it's only alluded to because of the action scene with the stormtroopers, that was a little weird. But I really do like her character a lot. She's kind of like that badass that comes in and is actually being badass. Or like the third sister is trying to be intimidating, and she's not for me. Where Taylor, like in that moment where she is speaking, like, call me sir, and I outrank you and all this, I was like, she's actually being a little bit intimidating right here. And this is what I want to see from the Inquisitors that I'm not seeing at all from them. And so it was like those moments, her acting abilities and like the way she delivered her lines, I was like, this is so good. Why am I not seeing that from like the Inquisitors?
Yeah, and I'll come to the Inquisitors in a second, but currently Obi-Wan's story, I mean, I'm so disappointed in the story arcs that they've chosen for this and the character development. Like, there's almost no advancement that we've seen so far in
Yeah.
Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship at all.
And there's only 2 episodes left.
Right. And there's, no story from Anakin or Vader's perspective. We see it from Obi-Wan's, but none from Anakin's. Like, no flashbacks, which we all kind of anticipate from the Clone Wars. Seems like, I mean, judging how the show's gone, we may get a scene, maybe, but I really wanted to see them two in their, in the kind of Clone Wars era. But we've got none of that. We've got none of, Vader's internal struggle, or, his conflict, as we see, in Return of the Jedi, where Vader tells Luke before he dies, you were right about my conflict within my this is the opportunity to show us, and you're just not showing us. So yeah, the writing is, I mean, it's crazy almost. And the fact that for me, the plot of this is Obi-Wan's just saving Leia over and over again. And it's just getting really tedious, to be honest, with Leia. It's hard for me to disbelieve from A New Hope, where Leia sends the message, that they've had no encounter, or they've had limited encounters before that. The actual final scene of Leia, like hugging Obi-Wan, I actually laughed, because, how can she like leave a message with R2 saying, Obi-Wan, you helped my father in the Clone Wars, and then she doesn't even reference this at any point. It's just like, it's breaking canon so much, where I'm getting a bit peed off with it now. So,
and
yeah.
we're the only ones that think that. Like, so many people online, even like when I was talking to my brother, they were like, of course she knew him. And I'm like, why does everyone else think that, when it's like you, me, and Mike are the only ones that are like, she didn't know him in A New Hope?
No, I'm sure people do that. I think they're kidding themselves, or they're fitting it in to where they want it to make sense, or they're forcing it to, because it literally, like, if you're investing in the canon like we were told to do by Lucasfilm, it's just not. It's hard to believe what they're pointing out. And on top of that, I'd say some of the action scenes, I just don't feel they were great. Even in the third episode, I don't know if that's Deborah Chow's direction on the action scenes. They just don't, like, for example, all really Obi-Wan did was block a few blaster bolts. I mean, come on, I need more than that from Obi-Wan. I do not know why he's not an elite why is he not in his prime? I mean, that would be such more of a compelling story, like a prime Obi-Wan against a Vader, this part of their lives, trying to hide, Luke, and just so many other creative stories you could have told with Uncle Owen and, that kind of thing. And just seeing the epic fights that they could have had. Why is he this broken man who can barely use the Force? It's just so irritating because these characters mean a lot for me and the fandom in general, and what they're giving us is so disappointing. And I'm getting really upset with these episodes. But just thoughts on the ending of the episode again. The Obi-Wan and Tala were on that. They were kind of trapped, on this facility, and then some snake speeders come out of nowhere and basically save them.
Deus Ex Machina, basically.
And that could have been interesting. How is he going to get out of that? But obviously they just conveniently come and save him, and then it removes the kind of difficulty that he has. And even that just brought back an earlier scene where, they talked about not having any shields at this facility. Why? Because no one would attack it until you guys did. It's just, how many plot conveniences do you want us to, do you want us to believe? Again, that was a bit rough. But, and then leading on to the end scene where, we see Leia and Obi-Wan have that little hug. Yeah, I quite like the actress, the little girl that plays Leia, and it's cute and all, but completely almost like is it hurting my heart to see them do things like that. But yeah, what about you? What are your thoughts on the ending? With the snow speeders and the little scene with Leia at the end?
Yeah, it was kind of like, okay, how they're gonna get out of this, and then this, and they come in and be like, oh, that's how they're gonna get out of this. So it was kind of like, convenience of the plot. And then what I really didn't like is that he continues to use his blaster. They already know he's a Jedi.
Definitely.
They know that he has a lightsaber. Why is he not using his lightsaber? He reverted back to using a blaster in those scenes. And so I was just like, okay, you're not really, like, you established something in the plot earlier in this episode. They know he's a Jedi. They know he has a lightsaber. Why is he not using it?
Yeah, I know they used it for plot conveniences and stuff, but almost completely being against blaster usage, in Revenge of the Sith era, and then New Hope obviously doesn't use a blaster. This in between time where he's this broken man and he has to use a blaster. Like, it is a little again opportunities to use and see what give us what we want in terms of for Star Wars fans. Obi-Wan on adventures, but the choices that they're making is seriously having a detrimental effect. And just with we'll kind of, before we end, I mean, some things that I did like, I did like seeing the Jedi in these kind of frozen amber things. I don't know what kind of storage was going on there, but lots of obviously questions because especially in that it seems to be they didn't make it 100% clear, but that wasn't Vader's castle, that was the Inquisitor's castle or fortress. I know that because there was
the Fortress Inquisitorius,
yeah. And why are they in their facility and not Vader's facility? A lot of them potentially, people that were Jedi that were killed were potentially killed by Vader because the Inquisitors were Jedi at the time. So is that from then, or is that ones after? That kind of thing. Especially a child that was there. There was obviously a child that was there. It seemed like he was in the Jedi Temple, with his gear and stuff, that the same gear that they have in the prequels. So they look like that was killed. That child was killed at the time, by probably Vader. And then why is it in there? That was just a little confusing for me. Hopefully we'll get more of that. Another thing that I think was positive was just Obi-Wan. Just the one scene of Obi-Wan using his blue lightsaber in the dark with the red lighting with the two troopers. It was really quick and everything, and I was hoping we'd get more of that. Cool. But yeah, he was just kind of deflecting some bolts after that in a few corridors that look exactly the same. But that actual scene when he kind of saved Leia, I did like that. It's just fun, seeing Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor use a lightsaber on stormtroopers. That's the stuff that I've envisioned all these years. So the little we got of it, I did like, that was badass. But yeah, what are your kind of best things leaving off this episode, or what are your favorite parts?
Before I go to my best things, I do really want to talk about the Deborah Chow. Like, I loved her episodes in The Mandalorian, and I think she did an amazing job there. And so I don't really understand like the disconnect with here. And really focusing on the third sister, I saw moments of good acting, moments of good scenes with her when like she's with Leia and she's quieter or she's pretending to care about Leia. Like those were better acting, better scenes from her. But then anytime she adds anger in her voice or like it's just I don't believe it at all. She's not intimidating to me. And I have to think that some of this is a direction, like what is she's being directed to do, because you're seeing scenes without that anger in her voice where she seems better, and then now you're seeing that anger in her voice and I'm like, is Deborah Chow telling her be more angry like kind of thing? And I'm just like, so there's like a disconnect between like the way she directed Mandalorian, which was so good, and then kind of just these scenes in this show. But to go to my positives, I love the back to tank parallel at the beginning between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan. Like they're both in a back to tank, they're going back and forth. There's moments too where you're like, whose burned arm is that? Is that Vader? Is that Obi-Wan? And I loved that scene where like the lights go out and then you see the blue saber, wah, out. Then you goes over to the other guy. So yeah, that scene was great, and I really love the music. Which I mean, Star Wars music, they always kill it. But those are small things that are positives. Where like most of this episode was like a negative or a meh for me.
Yeah, it was definitely meh. But there's a couple of things that you mentioned there that I got to touch on. Yeah, for me, the music is not like there's no really iconic or standout themes. It's fine. It's not bad music or anything, but there's a multitude of different score things that they could get from, from that era, and they're not using anything as well, apart from like a second or two here and there. So I noticed that the fact that Obi-Wan was completely burnt a few hours ago, and then now because he's been in the back to tank, now he's stopping, water, and he's using the lightsaber. That's really, but I know they've used his back to tank a few times now as a healing thing.
Yeah.
And then Reva, I mean, I'm almost totally checked out on her as a character. That's why I've not literally addressed her, because I just put it at the back of my mind. Her scenes, dreadful. They're absolutely dreadful. Like, I don't know. Obviously not her personally. I'm talking about the writing, the direction, the character choice. We're 4 episodes in now. We have no clue why she's running around shouting. No character development at all. It's extremely
how she knows that
irritating.
He's Anakin.
Yeah, extremely irritating character. And I think a part of, I'll be honest, a part of the controversy that's been out, I think they've really stirred that to kind of deflect from the potential or anticipated criticism from the show. They've kind of doubled down on the personal abuse that she's been getting, because to try and deflect or take you're like, oh, it's not because the show's bad, it's because they're all racist, is that they're attacking. Like, no, like the show is not good. Okay, and I'm bordering on not a very good show, and that's the worst character in the show. So I think they've kind of doubled down on the the abuse stuff, because it's a good deflection for them. So it's a political thing that they've done. I've seen them do it before anyway. So that whole thing was a bit obviously weird. But yeah, I think that's egged it on. But anyway, that was a side thing. My overall score, verdict, even dull, devoid of any emotion, character development, story development. It's just a kind of frustrating Prison Break. That's all it was really. And why is Reva trying to exploit Leia? Like, what does she know? She's 10 years old. Like, why do you care what she says? Like, okay, like, fine. And then did she block her force use or something? Like, there's really, really dumb stuff happens in this, quite
And she was
frankly.
like, "You're strong," but she doesn't explain like there's no inclination of like, oh, does she have the force? It's kind of like oh, I had to be strong too when I was
use your
younger.
head canon, I guess. I mean,
yeah,
awful writing in this. I mean, it's really irritating me. And I mean, obviously, we've been told this rematch of the century is coming. You know, we haven't had it yet, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So 2 episodes left. We'll see where we're going. I mean, for me, I'm going to give it 5 out of 10, and I want to give it a 4. Really, I'm being quite generous because it's because of Hugh McGregor, really. But yeah, I'll give it a 5. What about you? Overall thoughts out of 10?
I was literally thinking, I think this is a 5 out of 10 for me, which is the lowest I think I've given anything. And it's, I mean, I love Ewan McGregor. I don't think he's being used to his potential because he is a fantastic actor. I really do like Tala in the last episode and this episode. I keep having issues with the third sister and the Inquisitors in general. I think it's in my head like they're so menacing in Rebels, and then just to not see this in live action, it really like there's moments where I'm like, okay, who are you doing this show for? Because is it for the fans? Is it to bring in new people? Kind of, because it's really not working on either end. I try to think about it as like, okay, current friends are going to be pissed. First off, we have no idea if the Grand Inquisitor, if they're going to address that or not, because they haven't yet. Like, he's supposed to still be alive. I hope that we get that in the next 2 episodes. And there's the thing with like Leia and Obi-Wan, for the 3 of us, we're like, that's breaking canon. So I'm like, okay, as a Star Wars fan, you're breaking canon right now. But then also, is this really bringing in new people? Because the writing and the direction and this filler of this episode, I don't think this would bring someone new in.
Yeah, I don't know. Definitely with the Grand Inquisitor stuff. Like, are we just expected to believe he's still alive and you're just not going to talk about it or address it or show us at all? I don't know. There's 2 episodes left. Hopefully they're not short, like a 30-minute episode again.
Yeah.
You know, because you definitely want and need more, especially with these 2 characters that, you know, that are integral to the Star Wars saga and story, and they're being sidelined as marketing tools for me. But anyway, that's the review today. Episode 4 of Obi-Wan will of course be reviewing next week. Yeah, big episode coming, so hopefully it'll be good and we'll enjoy it more than this one. But I've been Bogz, that's been my girl Sol, and we'll see you on the next review.